Item is a continued public hearing for 3139 Newbury Street Site Plan Special Permit Planning Board Case 2016-11, continued from October 19, 2016.
Mr. Chairman, good evening. For the record, Christopher Harrington. My law office is at 21 McGrath Highway, and I represent Heat Treating LLC, who's the applicant in this case. We came here this evening to give you an update on the status of this project and where we are. We've received comment letters from the city departments as well as a peer review report from the city's peer review engineer. We've responded to all the comments in those letters and reports, revised the plans and revised the stormwater report and the traffic report to incorporate all of the suggestions and all the requirements that were given to us by the peer review engineer and the city departments. At the moment, we recently filed revised plans and revised reports. The city departments and the peer review engineer have not had time to review those revisions as of this evening, so there's no real expectation that the project is ready to move forward or go to a vote tonight. But we wanted to let you know where we were. The project has been reduced to 17 units. It was 82. So we have a 17-unit project. I'm sorry, 72.
Oh.
All set.
It's even written right here. So
it's a postmark, right?
It's a 72-unit building, 118 parking spaces, which is 10 more spaces than what's required by the ordinance. Our traffic engineer, Jack Gillen, prepared a full traffic report with traffic counts for Hancock Street and the intersection of Hancock and Newport Ave, and also the ramps from the Prospero Bridge. So that information has also been submitted. The most significant news, I think, is that our LSP, Mr. Baird, has been in touch with officers and officials at Mass DEP about the AUL, the status of the property, and cleaning up this site while the project is under construction. And he's had several discussions with them, and several very good positive discussions with them that he'll tell you about. It's our position, we stated this in October, that this project can be cleaned up while the building is under construction. The primary issue with the AUL that's presently on the site is that with an AUL, it prohibits certain uses on the property, and you can't have that use on the property until the site is remediated or the AUL is amended for the new use. So there's currently an AUL on the site that says it can't be used for residential purposes. Our position is that you granting a permit to build this building is not the change of use. The change of use doesn't occur until the building is finished and the applicant goes to the building department and applies for an occupancy certificate for a residential building. So today we have an industrial building on the site that's not prohibited by the AUL. Assuming this is approved, we'll have a construction site on the property for at least a year and a half, and then residential occupancy. So our plan and our position is that we will have the site remediated or in compliance with DEP regulations by the time the building is ready to be occupied. Mr. Baird is here with me this evening. He's done some preliminary testing and he has some updated information about the condition of this site compared to its condition the last time he was there, which was a few years ago.
Thank you. My name is William Baird. I'm with Web Engineering Associates in Situate, Massachusetts. Before I hand out these drawings, I received the letter from the Board of Health to you. I then called Joanne Fagan, who is the director for brownfield sites in the Northeast region. This is a brownfield site. Just a little bit about brownfields. It was put in by the legislature about 20 years ago. And what brownfield says that if you did not create the contamination, but you now are responsible for the property, and you clean up the property to the S1 GW2 standards, which is the most stringent standards in the Commonwealth, you are entitled to a 50% tax rebate on the cost of the cleanup. That's the incentive to take basically, in most cases, abandoned sites and that are contaminated, and then have an investor buy those sites and clean them up. We've done 3 or 4 brownfield sites in the last few years. I talked with Joanne Fagan. She was concerned about the Board of Health letter. I've talked to her twice. I sent her all the information that she asked for about this site. And she would like to have a meeting with the Board of Health and your director shortly after the first of the year, plus the potential owners of the property. So that's where we stand with the DEP at this time. She would really like to see this site cleaned up. She knows that it's currently in bankruptcy. The only way the site is going to get cleaned up is to have it be a brownfield site and have an investor take over and clean the site. When we were here last, I mentioned that we were going to go out. I presented to you the existing monitoring wells and the contamination that was present in those wells in 2013. We have since retested the wells, and I have the results of the resampling of the wells that are currently on the site.
Thank you.
As you can see, that some of the wells, MW 14, 17, 9, and 6, are essentially not contaminated. The laboratory results came back non-detect. Non-detect doesn't mean that there's nothing there. It just means that it's below the ability of the laboratory to quantify what contamination would be present. We also talked about the fact that there was an indication that there were microbes active on the site, because I talked about cis-dichloroethylene. It's only created by bioremediation or microbial degradation, and that vinyl chloride is the last contaminant present as chlorinated sites degrade from perchloroethylene to trichloroethylene to cis-dichloroethylene and then vinyl chloride. So if you take a look at like MW19, which is up on the upper left-hand corner, at that time we had cis-dichloroethylene and vinyl chloride, and you can see that now the contamination is less than 1. So that's a good sign. And if you look at MW21, 13 and 8 to me are the same numbers. That site, that well has not changed any in the level of contamination. MW20 also had the dichloroethylene and vinyl chloride, and those levels of contamination are down considerably. In the center of the site, though, there's still contamination that is above the standard, and that's in the area where the AUL was filed. And so there's work to be done there to clean up that area and remove the AUL. The other wells, 13 and 7, you can see that those levels have gone down significantly. When you see EPH, and you see EPH with numbers behind it, EPH are heavy hydrocarbons. It starts at diesel fuel and goes to asphaltenes. So these are heavy hydrocarbons. They tend to hang around longer than the lighter fractions like gasoline and naphthalene, 2-oil. And so I'm presenting this to you to let you know that we have done some work out there. We're by no means finished. There's a lot more assessment to do. We need to put in deep wells, and we need to put in more wells. The more work we do in the site assessment, the better our cleanup will be. And that's what you need to know. And working with Joanne Fagan will have a lot of input into our work. And as an LSP, that's a great thing, because when you have the DEP looking over your shoulder, the opportunity for you to do something that could be criticized later just goes away. That's my presentation. Do you have any questions at all?
Board members, any questions? I'm just, on behalf of the board, I'm just happy to hear that the willingness to sit down with EPA and the city and the applicant's representative. I just think that that's a good. Now, I understand it's a busy time of the year, but I would hope that that meeting could be held as soon as possible.
She asked specifically that I make it after the first of the year. So my job tomorrow or Friday is to send her an email with dates and times that were available after the first. I deal with her, and she is going to deal with the city. She's then going to contact the city and set up the meeting. Most likely in this building, if there's a conference room that's available for all of us.
I'm sure that the city will find a conference room somewhere in this building. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Board questions? No. I saw somebody raise a hand. So, public want to speak? Ma'am, did you want to speak? Yeah, I thought you raised your hand. Okay.
Actually, I do.
Okay.
I'm Brian. I'd like to speak about it. When this is all going on,
Just identify yourself.
I'm Brian Ridus, and I live at 28 Newbury Street, directly across the street from the heat treating plant. And, you know, while all this cleanup is going on, like, we live there. There's 3 houses. Like, what danger is this to us? Is any going to be airborne or
most of the way that these contaminants are dealt with is in the ground itself. So there's not going to be, as far as we're concerned, we want to avoid excavation. We want to treat everything from the surface down through the groundwater to the bottom of the contamination.
Yeah, they have a cement floor in there, so are they going to break that all up and then take that out of there?
Well, my preference is that when they get the permit, or they're sure that they're going to be able to move forward, I want to get there and drill a bunch of holes in that concrete floor and go down and get the information that we need. I can work both ways, but it's nice to work with a cap over everything, and that's what that concrete
Yeah,
floor
that's what
is.
my concern is, you know, will it be covered up so we're not breathing anything from
You won't
dust?
breathe anything.
Yeah.
That's one of my tasks, is to make sure that public health and the environment are served by whatever we do. If we did have open excavation, monitor the air.
And how do I get in touch? Can I get in touch with you and get a card from you if have any questions?
Yes.
What's going on?
Right, I have my
Yeah,
briefcase.
I'm going to hang around. So.
I'll give you my card.
Thank you. And, the other questions I have is, well, the job is going on. You know, what hours are these guys working? You know, and you know, do we have to like adjust for a year and a half of them coming in on a Sunday or work until 9 o'clock at night, or you know, where they're going to park these vehicles with all this construction's going on? We have no access to get down the driveway. It's a very thin street, and so while this is going on, we're going to suffer down there with noise, with you know all the stuff that comes with this building going on down there. But you know, it is progress, and you know, I just want to be able to talk to people in the city and the people that are building this building whenever any complaints need to be made, and we can adjust so that we're comfortable with you doing the project And not, you know, I have tenants, there's people that live down there, there's kids, you know, families on both sides of me, and so we need, you know, somebody that we can talk to when all, you know, all of a sudden a big huge bulldozer shows up in the front of the house and starts pounding and windows start cracking and, you know, the stuff that's gonna happen down there. This is a huge project.
Yeah, truthfully, I can't speak for the construction, I can only speak to what I know, and everything I know is below the ground surface.
Oh, all right, I'm sorry, I'm talking
Oh,
about
that's
that.
okay.
I'm going on about something.
No, that's all right.
Maybe you can answer.
If the planning board approves the project, there'll
Yeah.
be construction hours in the decision that will limit the times that we can work on the site.
Yeah.
And we will also meet with you and your neighbors.
Nice.
We can do it in the next few weeks if you're available. I know Christmas is right around the corner, it's not a good time to meet.
Yeah.
But we're willing to meet with you, with the owners of the project, to talk about construction schedule, where people will park,
Yeah.
what inconvenience you might have, and what
Yeah.
we can do to make it as little as possible.
That's great, I haven't sat down with anybody. That'd be a great thing, then I can talk to my other neighbors. I talked to Declan and we had small conversations, but that's about it.
Okay.
But it'd be great to get your name and your number and talk
Yeah,
to you.
so we need to have an in-depth conversation with Declan
Yeah,
and talk about specific issues. We're definitely willing to do that.
yeah. All right, I just want to have a voice, you know, on what's going on and be able to adjust as we go along. We're living across from this monstrous project, but we're all in favor of it because it's a neighborhood that needed to be developed, and it'd be nice to see that industrial building gone, to see Lynn successful down there, and then to change our street. You know, I'm all about that, but just, it's gonna take a year and a half, and there's gonna be some bumps across people across the street, but we need to be able to have a voice there to talk to it.
Sure.
And have, you know, something adjusted that, you know, that's bothering us.
Yeah, I mean, the first portion of the construction is going to be built, there's going to be a lower level garage and a garage off of Newbury.
Yeah.
2 levels of concrete
Yeah,
garage.
one comes out on Newbury to back, I already know all that, and
Right.
I understand, I've been to the last meeting. And I understand until the building's up, once you guys are working inside, we're not gonna be able to know you're there.
Right.
It's just the tear down and then the exterior of the building,
Yeah.
and that's the problem. You
Yeah,
know,
I mean,
Once you're inside,
we'll be able to use the 2 levels of the garage for construction workers parking
awesome,
during the construction process.
yeah,
The garage will be high enough on the second floor for pickup trucks.
Yeah.
But we'll talk to you about all
okay,
that.
thank you. Thank you. My answer's it.
All set?
Yeah, I'll talk to you.
I'd also like to add, Jim Fatsy's the planning director.
Hi, Jim, my pleasure, nice to meet you again.
Pleasure. What we've done, again, the way this process has worked is there's a proposal, you heard what you heard at the last meeting. We took that information, we shared it with our site peer review, who had concerns, the health department had some concerns, so we engaged the proponents in dialogue. We called the EPA, excuse me, the DEP, as they did. There were conversations back and forth. We felt that the best way to manage this project would be, in fact, to have the DEP meet with us and the city engineers and the city health department, and also with the proponent, to sit down, discuss all these issues prior to anything going on here at the zoning board, excuse me, at the planning board. Subsequent to that, the zoning board is also going to participate in this project. They'll be looking at it. There, at all times, there will be an active monitoring of the site by city agencies, just as the reason this came about, because the health department got their information. We sat with also the building inspector, DPW, all different city groups, and then we also hire an outside engineering group to take a look at all of this. So that's why we're here today, having this conversation. So
Pretty good, my
every single piece of this plan will be before you and before the public. You'll know what the construction hours are. You'll know where the trucks are coming. You'll hear about how many trucks are coming. There'll be a construction plan. There'll be a level of comfort for the neighborhood to understand exactly what's going to happen. That's on us to keep an eye out on what's transpiring on the site. We do that on the citizens' behalf. So anytime you have a question, in addition to speaking to the proponent, you feel free to give me a call or the planning department. We'll walk
I'll
you
get
through
your
each
card
step.
after this.
Okay,
I
absolutely.
live in the greatest city in the USA, that's what I feel.
That's right. I agree with you.
Nothing better, that's why I live here, I love Quincy.
Okay, sure.
I'm a lifetime resident. North Quincy High, 74.
Sir?
Yeah, hi, my name's Brendan Furner from 28 Newbury Street. But the whole question is that, like, I mean, it's almost to me like an open ticket. They're coming through with things that aren't there yet. So when we do have an issue, or when we can't hear everything that's happening, where do we go from there? I mean, because this is where we have our voice now. If they come up and say, oh, these are our plans, this is what we want to do, their plans are incomplete. So now we're going to vote on it, on incomplete things. So this is where I have a problem. I don't have a problem yet, but I don't know the whole story.
I understand. And I think, as Mr. Fetzig has represented, the process of the review process that's going on internally, if you will, and now including DEP, okay?
Right.
So that when the applicant, after that meeting, at our next meeting or a subsequent meeting, there'll be a presentation of the entire proposal. We now will have the advantage of having information both at the city level and the state level with DEP, which is information that will be shared by the applicant and or by the city at the time of the presentation. So
Right.
there'll be another opportunity after the presentation for you to speak, and
Okay.
and hopefully everything will be explained to you after that meeting.
That's exactly
Which will
what
allay
I
your
was-
fears. I understand.
All right. No, I just didn't know the whole.
Understand.
Thank you.
Anybody else in the public wish to speak?
I just have one quick comment.
Go ahead, John.
We've been doing a lot of commercial or industrial sites. You're giving people special permits to build residential areas where it wasn't zoned to build. So I think one nice thing the planning board could do would be, this isn't typical building. If you are going to give them a special permit, they shouldn't be able to do anything on Saturday. Saturday's a day off. It should be Monday through Friday. Obviously never on Sunday. But, you know, if they're doing it, you know, if it's a real construction project, you know, maybe like where they're doing that one by BJ's, let them do that on Saturday. But these people live across the street. Saturday's probably their only day off. They don't want to be hearing that jackhammer going at like 8 o'clock or 7 o'clock. I'm not sure what time it starts, but when you give them the special permit, which it looks like they are going to get it, don't make it that special. Just say you can't work on Saturday. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else wish to speak from the public? Seeing none. Member Barrett.
Just a question or if it least a comment. Apologies if it was already raised. But when you guys do come back before us, it would be very helpful for me to understand exactly what the facility's going to look like from 93, from the Constance Street Bridge, coming down Hancock Street. This is, you know, obviously part of the gateway to the city, and from 93, it's going to be very important to make sure that we understand what this building is going to look like to people passing by. So if I could just put that on the...
Yes, on the revised plans from Arthur Chu, he did add the adjacent buildings to give the perspective of what the building looks like next to the existing buildings.
Yeah.
But he doesn't have a rendering of what it would look like if you were in the middle of an Alfonso River Bridge.
Yeah.
And so I'll get on him to do that for you.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Nice.
Any other questions? Okay, so I'd ask for a motion to continue this to, I'd like to say to our meeting on the 11th of January, but I don't know how quickly things are going to happen, and that's why I asked us to bear.
We're going to do our best to have
Okay.
answers by the 11th of January.
Okay, so I've asked the board to make a motion to continue this item to the 11th of January. Is there a second to the motion? Discussion, all those in favor?
Thank you.
Aye.